Hi everyone, it's early Monday afternoon and just another news update coming through the pipeline. Before that, just want to say, it's frustrating when you actually have problems paying a bill and you have to actually go and check it out with the provider to find out why it's not working. Or that the body corporate have just changed their system and given me a new reference number with my BPay, and it doesn't work. I've tried it on both. I've got accounts with Commonwealth and ANZ. It doesn't work with either of them, and I had no problems with the previous one. So change for change's sake, that does not work out well in this case, and it's a bit of a hassle. It's not like I enjoy paying body corporate fees, but it is the right thing to do, and it's a pain that it doesn't work out. But anyway, it's just one of life's little challenges. There's a lot bigger challenges out there, especially if you're living in Melbourne, and of course that's where the first news item is going to come from. Big surprise. So we'll get right into it. Furious business owners in Melbourne slammed Daniel Andrews for keeping pubs, restaurants and retail shut until November, despite just 2 new cases and the WHO changing their advice on lockdowns. Victoria reported 2 new coronavirus cases and 0 deaths overnight. Premier General Andrews announced a number of changes to Melbourne lockdown, but small business owners feel like they were forgotten in the new changes. Well, like I keep telling people, the man's a socialist and he doesn't give a stuff about private enterprise. It's patently obvious. He's been consistent on that. And of course, he's the man who coined the phrase. He had his road maps, and of course, there's total BS as we've found out. It's all on the fly. There's no methodology behind it, but behind all these lockdowns, it just shows the incompetence of government, and really, the public should not be putting up with this as much as they are. They've been way too complicit with what the government's been saying. I think they need to rebel a lot more. But anyway, but small business owners feel like they're forgotten in the new changes. Hospitality and retail businesses likely won't open until November the 1st, he said. The 5-kilometre travel restriction has been extended to 25 kilometres. Small business owners are seeing red after Daniel Andrews ignored them when negotiating the easing of COVID-19 restrictions in Melbourne. Apparently he doesn't even talk to business. He doesn't want to. I mean, again, they're anathema to his philosophy. It's everything is government, government, government. And that's, well, especially, and having a ridiculously bloated police force acting as his bully boys. It's very reminiscent of what happened in 30s Germany. You know, this is the irony of it. Either end of the political spectrum, if you've got a fanatic, an extremist like Andrews, it doesn't matter whether it's left or right. They're all power crazed maniacs, and they don't mind using a bit of physicality to enforce their rule of law. Under the new rules, groups of up to 10 people from the households can gather outdoors, and tennis courts, skate parks and golf courses will reopen. Hairdressers will also reopen, and outdoor pools will be able to host 30 swimmers, while real estate auctions will go ahead outdoors with up to 10 bidders. But the city's retail, hospitality and personal care traders will likely have to wait another 2 weeks before opening their doors. Under the state government's latest plan, all metropolitan Melbourne retailers can resume trading from 11:59 p.m. on November the 1st. The news was a devastating blow for business owners who have been crippled by the restrictions. As Mr. Andrews announced the easing of restrictions at his daily press conference on Sunday, he was confronted by a reporter who accused him of ignoring small business owners. Businesses who thought they might be able to reopen say they will not be able to survive closed for another 2 weeks. So why are you ignoring them? One reporter asked. Well, good on him. He insisted he wasn't ignoring them, but was doing the best he could with the health advice given to him. Here we go again. The Chief Medical Officer. This has really been a nightmare. It's all through the perspective of the Chief Medical Officer not taking into account the more broad effects of these lockdowns. It's just ridiculous. These people are so inflexible too. To do anything different is irresponsible, completely and utterly irresponsible. I do not offer that leadership. I am doing what is right and what is safe. Whether it be popular or not, this is for others to judge, he said. Yeah, well, I'm judging you. Guilty. Chrissy Morse, General Manager of the Chapel Street Precinct, told Daily Mail Australian people were furious at the Premier. The fact retail and hospitality is still left waiting till potentially November is an unjust joke, she said on Sunday. There's a cloud of anger from Chapel Street Precinct businesses today, as this is no longer acceptable, sustainable for our businesses. I would have rather kept the 5 kilometre limit and the shops open. Mr Andrews offered a glimmer of hope that there is some optimism, confidence even, that if things continue this week as they have in the last 5 days, we may be able to bring that date forward. But business owners with their backs against the wall and facing certain economic ruin said confidence isn't enough. They need assistance. Our businesses should not be forced to suffer one more day of forced closures because of poor contact tracing measures, Justin O'Donnell, chairperson of the Chapel Street Precinct, said. Do not make us wait for more harrowing days. If Dan is so confident that he has fixed the issues with Victoria's contact tracing, then he has no excuse to keep us closed until maybe November. Ms Moores pointed to the World Health Organisation as further evidence that it should lift lockdowns. The WHO stated that they no longer support widespread city lockdowns. WHO understands we must now live with the virus until a vaccine is ready. Daniel Andrews does not, she said. It seems the rest of the country is evolving in their policies, but Dan continues on his draconian parade. We must learn to live with the virus and open our businesses up now. The mental health impact on our business owners and staff is now doing more damage than some realise. Victoria Tourism Industry Council Chief Executive Felicia Mariana said the industry was on track to lose $23 billion in visitor spending at a cost of 165,000 jobs. Businesses, large and small, were hoping for a lifeline of income from upcoming AFL Grand Final and Melbourne Cup long weekend, she said. These are peak periods, yet again the industry will lose. Melbourne's pubs and hotels are also left bitterly disappointed at the further delays. Australian Hotels Victorian Branch President Danny Kenny labelled the indoor patron limit unrealistic and unviable for Melbourne publicans. Pubs are accumulating debt at an alarming rate under ongoing forced civic shutdown of the industry, he said. I fear a number of local pubs might not survive, with costs amounting to almost $10,000 per week, $250,000 over the lockdown period, and up to $25,000 a week for larger pubs. Modelling has previously established the lockdown costs Victoria's economy about $1 billion a week. Wow, that's $52 billion a year. It's mounting up. Okay, next story is regarding the New Zealand travel bubble, and there's been a bit of a bumpy ride with the bubble. The bubble's been burst a bit by the looks of things by some unruly New Zealanders. New Zealand Trans-Tasman bubble farce deepens as it's revealed 23 Kiwis flew to Sydney, then skipped Western Australia's border closure. 23 Kiwis, including child, fly to Perth over heavily restricted WA border. Only New South Wales, Northern Territory are in the Trans-Tasman bubble with New Zealand. Kiwis are repeatedly flouting internal border restrictions, flying to Perth. Victoria, 5 found in Tasmania despite border restrictions. WA Premier Mark McGowan calls for the federal government help, flight manifests. Western Australia slammed the federal government's management of the Trans-Tasman bubble after it emerged 23 New Zealanders flew to Perth despite hard border closures. West Australian Premier Mark McGowan said on Sunday that 25 newly arrived Kiwis, including a child, had flown into Perth overnight. This number was revised down to 23 on Sunday evening by WA police, and all have been put into hotel quarantine. Western Australia is not part of the travel bubble arrangement and has tough border restrictions in place with very few exceptions. Mr McGowan said the situation was not ideal. We would prefer better management of these arrangements, he said. I'm wondering why they've just gone into quarantine. Why they could potentially be arrested, couldn't they? I mean, this is not a trivial thing. If these border lockdowns are so important, why soft soaping them that much? I mean, stuff it. Mr McGowan called on the federal government to provide information about those catching flights across state borders, such as requiring passenger manifests for incoming flights. These manifests would now be far more helpful in monitoring and controlling people who might come in and may well be from overseas or well be COVID positive, he told ABC News. The Western Australian government is considering sending the New Zealand travellers back and is examining their personal circumstances. Quarantine-free travel between New Zealand and Australia is limited to New South Wales and Northern Territory. However, since the travel bubble opened on Friday, New Zealanders have been taking connecting flights to states outside the bubble. Well, shouldn't there be some documentation on them that indicating that they're not allowed to do this and they'd be just stopped from boarding flights? It does seem pretty slack to me, but nothing with the Morrison government surprises me these days. 5 New Zealand travellers were found in Tasmania having flown from Sydney to Launceston via the Trans-Tasman bubble and have been put into mandatory hotel quarantine. Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews said on Sunday that 55 travellers from New Zealand slipped past authorities at Sydney and flew into Victoria, even though the state never agreed to join the Trans-Tasman bubble. Victoria's Department of Health and Human Services later updated this figure to 52, saying 3 of the travellers have not crossed the border and remain in New South Wales. The embattled Victorian Premier said earlier on Sunday that just 23 of these people had been found since he learned of the debacle. On Friday, New South Wales opened its borders to travellers from New Zealand without the need to quarantine. But by Saturday, authorities informed Victoria that 17 people caught on a connecting flight into Melbourne, where borders are not shut to domestic travellers, despite the state grappling with a second wave of COVID-19. It's amazing. It's just so botched. Unbelievable. The number of travellers has since inflated to 52, of which 21 flew in on Friday and Saturday, while the rest came from other modes of transport. One has since returned to New South Wales. Well, that's about it for today. I'll keep it short and sweet. Well, I always say that, but I never deliver, but I'll try to. Look, as usual, please give me thumbs up, thumbs down. Make comments. Always good to hear your reviews. Thank you very much for my Swedish supporters that came out from the last video and bolstered my my views quite a bit. So I'm very, very grateful to you guys. And you made some good comments too, I might add. Clarified a few things about the local lockdowns in Sweden, which are not compulsory. It's just a suggestion. And unlike Victoria, they don't have to use fines to keep people in check. So it seems like there's a hard-ass attitude in Victoria compared to what's happening in Sweden. I think we could learn a lot from the Swedes. Anyway, please subscribe to the channel. I've had a couple of subscriptions, but nothing like I had with when I went from 500 to 600. Love to replicate that, but I think I'll need a major viral video to push me along. But anyway, look, have a great day. It's another perfect day here. I've just got to go down to Body Corporate and see if I can get some sense out of them so I can pay the bloody dues, because I don't want to be fined for not getting it in on time. That would really rub salt in the wound. So fingers crossed I get that sorted out. Also had this horrendous sound next door yesterday. It was the creche, I think, they were doing. It sounded like concreting work. It was that noisy. It's real industrial, heavy-duty sound. I cannot wait to get to the beachside suburbs where hopefully this insanity with noise up here will be alleviated to some degree. But anyway, look, I hope you have a quiet and restful day, and if you're working, well, it'll be one more day off until the next weekend. You've got to look optimistically, half full rather than half empty. So thanks for watching, and catch you again tomorrow.